Hello students, welcome to class 12 physics class. Today we discuss another one new topic of this chapter current electricity, that is drift velocity and relaxation time. Later also, after discussion the drift velocity and relaxation time, we discuss temperature dependence of resistivity. It's very important. So let's start with the first topic. So first topic is carriers of electric current. Before discussion of the drift velocity, first we have to understand the carriers of electric current. Carriers of electric current, we know that when the charged particle is flowing inside a particular direction inside a conductor, it constitutes an electric current. So that those charged particle constitute or those charged particle flows inside the conductor in a definite direction, that charged particles are called carriers of electric current because they are flowing inside the conductor. That's why we get the electric current. That's why it constitutes it set up an electric current. So we can say that charged particles are the carriers of electric current. Now these charge carriers are different for different materials. In solid, that means metallic conductor, they are the solid substances. In metallic conductor, we know that the conductor has a lot of free electrons. So we can say that in solid, that means in metallic conductor, these free electrons are the charge carriers. Because of this, electrons move inside the conductor. That's why it constitutes an electric current. Clear? In liquid, liquid means electrolyte liquid. Electrolyte liquid. Electrolyte liquid means any kind of solution. In that solution or in electrolyte, what happens? After the electrolysis process, we get one positive ion, another one is a negative ion. And due to this positive and negative ions, we get the electric current. So in solid, it is a free electrons are the charge carriers. In liquids, the ions, positively charged ions, negatively charged ions of that liquid are the charge carriers. For example, if we consider CuSO4 solution, after electrolysis what happens? Cu plus SO4 minus. So positive and negative ions, and they are move inside the electric sign and attracted by the electrodes, cathode and anode, and because of this motion of this ionized charges, we get the electric current. In gases means in ionized gas, positive and negative ions, same as the liquid. This here also positive and negative ions are present inside the gases. They are the charge carriers of electric current. Okay. Now we discuss the drift velocity and relaxation time. It is a very important, and sometimes it will come derive the expression for drift velocity and define the relaxation time. So first of all, we have to understand what is drift velocity. Drift velocity is nothing but it is the average velocity of the particles or attained by the particles due to an applied electric field which is proportional to the current. When an external electric field is applied, what happens? A force is experienced or a force is acts on the electrons, and they will attain some velocity, and because not only one electron are there are many electrons, so the average velocity of that electrons, this are called drift velocity, but condition after applying the external electric field. Now, when the conductor is subjected to an electric field or when we apply any external electric field, each electron experience a force, and that force Q equals to F equals to Q into E. But here we considered the charge particles or the carriers are the electrons, already we discussed. So electrons charge is negative, that's why we can write F equals to minus E into capital E. Q in place of Q we write minus E is the electronic charge of electron. Now when the force is experienced, what happened? It also acquires the acceleration, and acceleration we know that F equals to ma, so A equals to F by m. Now if we put the value of F, that is equals to minus E small e capital E by m, where m is the mass of the electron. Now the average time difference with what happened during this acceleration, due to this acceleration, what happened? The electrons collide each other and they also take some time. After one collision, they will take time to gain their energy, then again it collides. So that time difference between the two collision, this is called the relaxation time. In that time gap, the electrons are relaxed. That means they will gain the energy, then again it will collide with the another electrons. Again they will relax, they will gain the energy, again it will collide. So the time difference between these two consecutive collisions is known as relaxation time. And relaxation time is denoted by tau, that is equals to T1 plus T2 if n number of particles are there or n number of electrons are there, then up to Tn divided by n, because this is the average time. For each electron, first electron T1, second electron T2, third electron, the time is T3, so up to n. So the average time, we take the average time, this all time added divided by number of electrons. So drift velocity means average velocity. So suppose first electron gain the velocity v1, second electron v2, up to n number of electrons vn. So v1 plus v2 plus up to vn divided by n, and drift velocity is denoted by v suffix d. Clear? Now here in the equation 3, if we apply the first law of equation, V equals to U plus AT. So we get Vd equals to U1 plus U2 up to Un plus A into tau 1 plus tau 2 up to tau n divided by n. For first particle, for second particle, for third particle, then the average up to n. So we get this fourth number equation. Now we know that the metals have large number of free electrons, and when we did not apply any external electric field, they will randomly move inside the conductor, and the direction is different for different electrons. So and that means the velocity are distributed randomly in all directions. That's why we say that the average velocity of n free electrons without applying the external electric field, it will be 0. So we can write U equals to U1 plus U2 up to Un by n, that is equals to 0. This is the velocity when we did not apply a external electric field. Due to their random motion, whatever the velocity they gain or whatever the velocity they have, which is distributed randomly in all direction, that's why the average velocity will be 0. Then that means in that case there is no net flow of charge in the any direction, and we did not get the electric current. So that from equation number 4, the first part will be 0. So Vd equals to, we have T1 plus T2 plus Tn, that is the relaxation time T. So A into T. So Vd equals to, and in place of A, if we put the expression of acceleration minus small e capital E by m, then Vd equals to, we get minus small e capital E by m into tau. This parameter Vd is called drift velocity, and it is defined as the average velocity gained by free electrons of a conductor in the opposite direction of the externally applied electric field. So you keep it in your mind, when we apply the external electric field, only that condition we get the drift velocity. Otherwise we cannot get the drift velocity, because their velocities are distributed randomly in all direction. So there is no net charge flows inside the conductor. We did not get any current. When we apply the electric field, external electric field, after that we get the drift velocity. Clear? And also from the tau, the term tau is called relaxation time. So it is defined as the average time that elapses between two successive collisions of an electron is called relaxation time. Clear? Okay. Now relation between electric current and drift velocity. What will be the relation between them? So here in this figure we consider one conductor having length L and it is connected externally with a battery of potential V, and its area of cross section is A. And we consider inside the conductor their total number of free electrons are capital N, and electron density means mass by volume, that is free electron density, that is equals to small n. Keep it in your mind, capital N is the number of electrons present inside the conductor and small n is the free electron density. And T is the time reaching the electrons of length L of the conductor. That means it will enter in a left side and exit from the right side. So it will cover the L distance. So the time taken to cover this distance, that means L distance, that is the time T equals to L by Vd, because V equals to velocity equals to displacement by time. So T equals to displacement by velocity, Vd is the drift velocity. And total number of electrons inside the conductor, capital N, that is equals to, we can write total number, area of cross section is A, total length is L, A into L, this is a volume, into electron density. So we get a capital N equals to A into L into small n. Now from the definition of electric current, I equals to Q by T. Now if we put the value of Q from the quantization of charge, that is N into E. Here we did not write the small n because the N in quantization of charge, N represent the numerical value 1, 2, 3, 4, any. So here it is denoted by capital N. So capital N E by T. And in place of capital N, if we put the expression A into L into small n into E by T, and after that if we put the expression of T L by Vd, we get I equals to A into N into small n into E into Vd. This is the relationship between the electric current and the drift velocity. How you can remember? I equals to Vna, V-E-N-A, Vna. V means drift velocity, E means electric charge, that means the charge of an electron, N is the number density, electron density, and A is the area of cross section. So I equals to Vna, V into A into N into E. We know that the current density J equals to I by A. We express this expression in terms of current density. J equals to I by A. So in place of I, if we put that expression, we get E into N into Vd. So J equals to E into small n into Vd. This is the relationship between the drift velocity and the current density. Clear? Okay. Now next topic is mobility of charge carriers. Mobility of charge carriers means is the drift velocity attained by it in a unit electric field, and it is denoted by mu, that is equals to Vd by E, drift velocity per unit electric field. Okay, grid velocity per unit electric field. Sorry for disturbance. The mobility means, normally how we can understand mobility means how they can flow inside the conductor. If its mass is heavy, then its motion is slow. If the mass is less, its motion is very fast. This is the mobility. Okay, so Vd equals to, we know that q into E into tau by m, and so mu equals to, if we put the value of Vd, so q into E into tau by m into E, so we get E cancelled, q into tau by m. Clear? For electron, it will be denoted by E. So in place of q, we can write E into tau E by m. M is the mass of the electron, and for hole, mu h, that is equals to E into tau h by mh, because the electronic charge for proton and hole and electron are same. That's why we, for both cases, we write the E. Now SI unit of and the mobility of electron and hole are both for both it will be positive. SI unit of mobility is meter square volt inverse second inverse, and the practical unit centimeter square volt inverse second inverse. Relation between electric current and mobility. Relation between electric current and mobility. For conductor, what will be the relation between the mobility and the electric current for conductor? We know that already we discussed the relationship between the current and the grid velocity. I equals to V naught, and Vd equals to, we know that from the definition of mobility, mu E into E. So in place of Vd, if we put that value, we get I equals to E into N into capital A mu E into E. This is the relationship between the electric current and the mobility. For semiconductor, the current, whatever the current we get, that is due to holes and as for the electrons also. So here the two charge carriers are present. So whatever the total current that we get due to the electrons as well as for the holes also. That's why we can write I equals to IE plus IH. Now from that definition Vina, so we can write E into N into A into VE for electron, and for proton or holes, E into P into A into VH, because positive P. Actually, in semiconductor, P type and N type are there. That's why N and P, it will be written as P and N. So after solving or after putting this value of VE and VH, in terms of mobility, we get I equals to E into A into capital E within bracket N into mu E plus P into mu H, where P and N are the electron and hole densities of the semiconductor. Clear? Okay, now the next topic is temperature dependence of resistivity. Temperature, this is a very important. Okay, you just if your concept is not clear, then you cannot solve the numericals. Temperature dependence of resistivity. So we know that the temperature and resistance are directly proportional to each other. Suppose a conductor we have a conductor, length is L and the area of cross section is capital A, and we know that resistance of this conductor is directly proportional to L and inversely proportional to the area of cross section. And if we combine these two, we get R equals to rho L by A, where rho is the constant and it is known as the resistivity of the material. If we consider L equals to unit length, unit area of cross section, then R equals to rho, resistance equals to resistivity. So resistivity equals to what we can write? Rho R into A by L, and its unit is ohm meter. And also we studied in the earlier videos that conductivity is the reciprocal of resistivity, just opposite of the resistivity, and it is denoted by sigma. sigma equals to 1 by rho. It is the conductivity and its unit is ohm inverse m inverse. Now if we plot a graph between the temperature and the density, not density, and the resistivity for a material or for a conductor, what we get? We get for up to certain region, or if temperature is increases, resistivity also increases, because resistance also increases, and if resistance increases, that means resistivity also increases. Up to certain region it will be proportional. It will be proportional. Temperature and resistivity is proportional. But after certain point or after certain temperature, if we increase the temperature, then we see that now it did not fall, or we see that the resistivity is decreases. After, if we increase the temperature, resistivity not decreases, resistivity also increases, but not proportional to the temperature, not the straight line. Here you see that figure, up to certain range it will be straight line. Straight line means slope is constant, that means temperature and the resistivity will be proportional to each other. But after certain temperature, if we increase the temperature, resistivity increases but not the proportional. It gradually increases. So if we write this in mathematical form, then we can write the resistance at that temperature. It will be denoted by RT, and R0 is the value of resistance at 0 degree centigrade, where it will be started. Okay. So RT minus R0, that is a difference of resistance when it will be increases at that temperature. The resistivity or the resistance is increases but not the proportional, and its starting point, the value, the original value of the resistance at 0 degree centigrade, that is proportional to its original value. RT minus R0, that is proportional to R0. And also we know that the resistance is in proportional to temperature. So this difference of resistance RT minus R0, that is also directly proportional to delta T. Delta T is a change in temperature. So change in resistance is also proportional to the change in temperature. Now if we combine these two equations, I and 1 and 2, then we get RT minus R0 is proportional to R0 into delta T. And if we use the equal sign, then we have to multiply it by a constant term, that is alpha. RT minus R0, that is equals to alpha into R0 into delta T. So alpha equals to what we can get? RT minus R0 by R0 into delta T. And this alpha, this is called temperature coefficient of resistance. That RT minus R0 by R0, this term, this is called fractional change of resistance divided by delta T, that means per degree Celsius. So the coefficient of temperature coefficient of resistance is a fractional change in resistance per degree Celsius, is known as temperature coefficient of resistance, and its unit is per degree Celsius. Per degree Celsius. And we know that R0 equals to, initially at R0 degree temperature, R0 equals to rho 0 into L into A, and in that temperature where it will be not proportional to the temperature, RT equals to rho T by L by A. Now if we put this to value R0 and RT in the expression of third number expression, we get alpha equals to rho T minus rho 0 by rho 0 into T, or delta T you can write. That T represent the temperature. So here we use the resistivity. In place of resistance, we use the resistivity. So here the alpha is called temperature coefficient of resistivity. When you write in terms of R, then that is called temperature coefficient of resistance. But when you write as a resistivity, in terms of resistivity, it is called temperature coefficient of resistivity. Unit is same, per degree Celsius. Did you understand? Okay. So normally for different material, the value of this alpha, temperature coefficient of resistance or resistivity, it will be positive. That is, resistance increases with increase in temperature. But there are some substances like the germanium and silicon, that means the semiconductor device. They what happened? The resistance of the semiconductor decreases with increase in temperature. See this graph, resistivity versus temperature for a semiconductor, it will be decreases. So in that devices or that substances, the temperature coefficient alpha will be negative. Otherwise, in for all different material or for different metals, the alpha is positive. Clear? So the resistance charge factor per degree Celsius of temperature change is called temperature coefficient of resistance. This is the definition of alpha, temperature coefficient of resistance. Clear? I hope this concept will be clear now. So now we also solve some problem. Here the temperature coefficient is given and at 30 degree its resistance will be given. We find out the resistance as 100 degree. So RT equals to, we use that equation in terms of resistance, RT minus R0 by R0 into delta T equals to alpha. So just we simplify this one, we get RT equals to R0 alpha within bracket 1 by alpha plus delta T. In place of delta T, you can only write T. Now at 30 degree, in place of T, we write 30. So here also in place of T, we write the 30 degree right hand side. And at 100 degree, R100, in place of T, we write the 100. Now if we divide these two, we get, and because we know that R30 value, that is 8, we know that the value of alpha, we know that the value of R0. Okay, so if we put these values, sorry, R0 is cancelled, so no chance is there. R0 is cancelled, R0 alpha, that term will be cancelled. We know the value of R30 and alpha. If we put this value and after calculation, we get the resistance of that wire at 100 degrees Celsius is 10.1 ohm. Second number, here also same way, the resistance of a conductor at 20 degrees Celsius will be given and 100 degrees Celsius also be given. So we use same expression and we just simplify this one. So at 20 degree we get the equation number 1 and 100 degree we get equation 2. In place of T we write 20 and 100. Now if we divide this 2, we get one equation in terms of alpha because we find out here the alpha. We know the resistance at 30 and at 100 degrees Celsius. So if we put the values, we get alpha equals to 0.0025 per degree Celsius. Now in any equation, either equation 1 or equation 2, if we put the value of alpha, because it will be constant, so we get R equals to that R0 equals to, not R0 equals to 30 ohm. So the resistance of a conductor R0, that is denoted by R0, the resistance of the conductor at 0 degree Celsius is 30 degree and the coefficient is 0.0025 degree Celsius. So just here you correct it, that is not single R, that is R0. R0 represent the resistance at 0 degree Celsius. Here also I will give some assignments, try to solve in your home. I will write the answers also. If you have any doubt, please write in a comment box. Have a nice day. Tata.